one of the things that brings you to the St. Louis Auto Show every January.
The raw speed and power of drifting. I'm Chelsea Denofa, professional Formula Drift driver.
And I'm Vaughn Ginn Jr. And along with Dave Sinclair Ford, each year we bring you the drift experience at the St. Louis Auto Show. But soon, you're going to have twice the action under one roof. The St. Louis Auto Show will now also be hosting the Motorcycle Show. The world's hottest bikes join the $1 Million Mile, the Ultimate Kid Zone, the Zip Line, and cars, trucks, and SUVs as far as you can see.
It's all going to be awesome, so make sure you make it out January 24th to 27th.
We look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a good time. Woo!
It is not always easy to find the one crying out for help, having thoughts of taking his or her own life. But somewhere among the hundreds of kids attending Kirkwood High School, that kid may be there. And whoever he or she is, they need to know there are peers who have their back.
You just feel more connected when you're talking to someone else your age, I think.
The key is that it's student-driven. If it was a directive from me, it wouldn't be at their core, it wouldn't be at their heart.
They don't really see what students see.
For about 6 years now, the journalism department at Kirkwood High School has had a second purpose. Some of the students here have taken on the responsibility of running what is still referred to as Suicide Awareness Week, even though they also plan days throughout the year and are on the watch, ready to help all the time.
There's definitely a stigma associated with mental illness, especially suicide, and so we started to provide educational resources and support to the student body. At our meetings, we come up with ways that we can show the student body that this is always an issue, suicide is always going to be prevalent, and that it's not just a week in April.
Logan Cruz knows that as well as anyone, because Logan Cruz has walked in the shoes of those they're trying to help.
Sophomore year and junior year, I was hospitalized because I was feeling suicidal. I deal with depression and anxiety, and both times I had wished that it was more apparent to my friends, that I could kind of lean on them more. Not to say that it's their friends' responsibility to be on top of their friends all the time, be like, you're depressed or you need help. But it made me realize that I did kind of feel alone. Both times when I came back from being hospitalized, it just drove me to work harder on Suicide Awareness Week, because there's so many kids who feel like I did, and I felt for them because I've dealt with it, and I wanted to make sure that they didn't feel alone like I did, and that they had the resources that I could have used originally when I started dealing with this.
So Logan is among those who have taken the torch from students who started all this. Everyone involved knows this is, in the end, about empathy, being an ear to listen or a shoulder upon which to cry, something that's easier to do teen to teen than teacher to student oftentimes.
It's super important. I think students get it. I think when you're a student, talking to another student is easier. There's this mutual understanding like, oh, hey, I think you've gone through some of the same stuff that I've gone through. We can talk about it now and we can help make it better because we feel more equal.
It's not always the most appealing thing to walk right up to a counselor you've never seen, an adult, and say, hi, I'm going through a crisis, I need help. That's a very uncomfortable thing to do.
They don't just make this up as they go along. The students who started the group years ago set the tone of self-education to make sure they were doing the job right.
I actually had a group of students who gave up days in the summer and in the fall who attended seminars and workshops, professional training, to make sure we were going about it in the right way, because we know how heavy the topic is. We know how different people, the triggers. So we wanted to make sure we were helping and not hurting.
It's not just a bunch of kids who have no clue about mental illness trying to start a club or anything. I specifically and other students have dealt with this issue, whether on a personal level or family level, and it is important to us, and that's why we are working on this so hard.
But hard as they try, they still can't always find that student in desperate need. In the spring of 2018, just days before Suicide Awareness Week, a Kirkwood student took his own life.
Losing a student was very hard, and it makes our cause even more important.
For me, it just was kind of one of those things that showed me how important it is to be working towards a goal of something like this, because it just, when these events happen, it's just really hard to work through. It's so hard to describe, I don't know.
If anything, it brings a sense of urgency. They try a little harder, listen a little more, reach out a little farther. It is a case of kids taking the responsibility to help kids, hoping to head off tragedy with capable, helping hands.
For me, I'm kind of working for my past self and other students that are like that now, that I can't see because it's not always a visible thing.
I've just seen a lot of my friends go through it, and it's just one of those things that I don't think is talked about enough. No one should have to go through something like that alone or at all.
The key to finding a diamond in the rough is imagination. And looking at the current state of City Foundry STL, it's hard to imagine much that sparkles.
There were definitely people who sort of had this puzzled look in their eyes, like, do you really know what you're doing? Does this really make sense? But that sort of is motivating for me.
His motivation began with a look outside this currently dilapidated Midtown structure and a question at the security gate, his son in tow.
There was a for sale sign on. We showed up on a Saturday and asked, could we go in the building and see the inside? And they said, no, you might die. Literally, the lady said, you might die, the security guard. So we said, okay. So we drove around the back and snuck in the building.
And after his little breaking and entering adventure, he began to see potential in this old building. Potential that by early 2020 should look something like this.
We're going to convert it into a food hall with offices, with restaurants, with retail, with entertainment. A food hall, a lot of interesting things, and there's nothing like that in the St. Louis region. So it'll be a one of a kind.
At least one of a kind here. Smith has seen this sort of makeover done before.
And I've been blessed to be able to travel a lot and see a lot of other developments around the country. And there's some very unique developments in other cities that take old industrial buildings and convert them into Instagrammable, really progressive, modern, dynamic spaces. And I've seen those in New York and Atlanta and Denver and places like that, and we're going to create that here in St. Louis.
The bones, so to speak, those old buildings ready for new life, have been in place in Midtown St. Louis for years. The Foundry location is nearly a century old and once was bustling.
This building was built in 1922, and they would melt ore and cast casings for electric motors. During World War II, we understand that they made aircraft carrier parts for the war effort.
The auto industry took it over from there, but by the recession of 2007-2008, it was shut down and abandoned, waiting for something to happen. What happened was an economic boom surrounding the Cortex innovation community. In 2010, there were 30 companies in the area. Today, there are 380, with a hotel on the way and more.
I don't want to say that it's all a result of Cortex, but the fact that, we're now at roughly 5,000 employees in the district, you put those 5,000 together with the 20 to 30,000 employees at the medical center and BJC, and another 12 to 15,000 at St. Louis University, there's a real density of employment here in this area.
And that density is feeding places like the Foundry in the surrounding area. In fact, Cortex says the Foundry is part of $1 billion in investment that is a result of all the new business activity. Spin-off business pointed to a placemaking philosophy.
You want to create an environment that is 24/7 and that gets people to come early and stay late.
It's an idea they're following here.
So at 8 in the morning, we have a company called Multiply, a company called Orion Genomics. So we have other office tenants. So first thing in the morning, we have a bunch of people working here. Midday, we've got the food hall and restaurants, Fassler Hall. So people will come here for lunch. Throughout the afternoon, we have shopping. So people will come here to shop. In the evening, we've got Punchbowl Social and Alamo Draft House, which is a movie theater. So people can come and entertain themselves. And then again, you have residential for overnight in our next phase. So it'll be a 24/7 environment.
All of it part of a growth strategy for the area that goes far beyond this old building and its good bones.
So in 10 years, you're going to have a lot more people living here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 10,000 more people living in Midtown in the next 10 years. You're going to see a lot more people working here. Cortex, Microsoft just moved into Cortex. It's been published that Square is expanding rapidly into Cortex. If you have people working here and living here, then you're going to have a lot more support. You'll have restaurants and cafes and bars, places to shop, places to entertain yourself, movie theaters like we're going to have here. And so City Foundry is part of providing the support to the neighborhood of Midtown that is growing dramatically and rapidly right now.
It's just pure Americana. You know, you think of American muscle, you think of a Corvette. Nothing beats that, makes the hair on your arms stand up. Nothing beats that sound. I fell in love with the Corvettes when I used to restore cars before I worked here. When you get into a 19 Corvette, you're gonna want to get on it. There's nothing else. It's a fun car. That's why you buy it. You buy it to drive it. Just press the gas a little bit. You have everything you need in a situation where you need to go. Just a super fast, responsive vehicle. I just love it. You're gonna lay your foot into that and it is gonna plant you right back in your seat. There's some gauges in here. It is gonna show you how many G's you are pulling. The G-force gauge on here just lets you know that this isn't your ordinary car. This is almost classified as a supercar. So that, I mean, any car you get in, it tells you how many G's you're pulling. You better be careful. It's a speeding ticket waiting to happen. So you really got to keep your eyes peeled to your surroundings because you can find yourself going pretty fast pretty quick. So right now I have it in track mode. There's 4 different modes to choose from. I like track mode because so every different mode changes your throttle response, your steering dampening, your suspension, and the sound of the exhaust. Track mode is the loudest. Wide open, just amazing throaty sound. If I turn it to the left, I go into sport mode. That's just a little more for back roads and driving more aggressively. Track, you just want to go straight. Then I can turn it into tour mode, which they recommend you driving in. Just the easiest on steering. Oh, I'm going to drop it down into manual mode, and I have 2 paddle shifts. My right hand is plus, my left hand is minus. So essentially I'm going to be driving this vehicle like a stick shift, which is another reason I love this vehicle. I'm the guy who says, oh, hey, you know, a computer's not smarter than me, because the automatics are 100% faster than these stick shifts nowadays. Nobody likes to believe that, but it is 100% true. And that's another reason that I love the Corvettes, just the style, the attention you get when driving them. There's multiple different Corvette customers. It's hard to group them all into one. But I mean, it's more of a personal reward vehicle, you know, because they aren't the cheapest. The Corvette guy is, you know, somebody who really likes the attention. I want to have a chiropractor sign on the side of the Corvette because everybody breaks their neck. Makes me want a chiropractor company. Guy in a truck right here just broke his neck looking at me, and I'm just cruising on by. The looks you get driving down the road in any year Corvette, you just can't put a price on it. It just makes you feel good inside knowing you're driving around in a pure Americana car that everybody has a love for. Everybody appreciates the Corvette.